Greetings. This is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct today from Black Facts Headquarters Central with a special presentation today about the one and only Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And we're coming up close. We're just about to his Earth Day, which is August 17. That'll be tomorrow. So we've been going now for the past 16 days. This will be our 16th day spreading the word about Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Who is he? What did he do? Why do we need to remember him? Why is he remembered every day in numerous different ways and we don't even know? That's an even better question. We don't even know how we remember Marcus Garvey right now today. But by the time we get done, you'll know. When you see things about Marcus Garvey that relate back to him, you'll have more of a chance of recognizing what you're looking at. But before we get started, we always got to do the needful, not the pleadful. Let's go ahead and we're asking all of our supporters out there to go ahead and give us a like. If you're watching on Facebook, give us a thumbs up. If you're watching on the tube, and then go ahead and spread the word far and wide about what we're doing over here and how paying attention to what we're doing here can put a glide in your stride and a dip in your hip as we help you get on up into the mothership. So let's go ahead and take off from there with a saying, some words of wisdom from the man himself right now. All right, so here we go. Here's a shorty but a goodie. The world ought to know that it could not keep 400 million Negroes down forever. The world ought to know that it could not keep 400 million Negroes down forever. And enough said. I don't think we need to say anything more about that. So we're reading today from a new book we haven't been reading from previously. This one's done by Robert Hill, who was at UCLA when I was there back in the 80s. And he was then working on the Garvey papers and published a number of books related to the Garvey papers. He compiled them and put them into books and put the word out to us. But this is a condensed version of what he did on the Garvey papers. So this is Marcus Garvey, Life and Lessons by Robert Hill, produced by UC, the University of California. This one's coming out of Berkeley, California. And we've got one here. This one is an article written by Marcus Garvey that appeared in the Pittsburgh Courier, that famous black newspaper that I believe is still a going concern. But if not, they definitely have left a legacy behind for sure, if nothing else. And so we're going to go ahead and transition on into our slideshow, and I will go ahead and read the story of Marcus Garvey by Marcus Garvey. I was born on the 17th of August, 1887 in the island of Jamaica, British West Indies. My parents were Negroes. My father was a man of brilliant intellect and in his youth of dashing courage. Up to his mature years, he was unafraid of consequences. In life, he took human chances, as most bold men do. But at the end, he failed in his career. He was once independent, but he died poor. My mother was a sober and conscientious Christian of the soft and good-natured kind. She was the direct opposite of my father, who was severe. To this strange combination, I owe my birth. I grew up in my hometown, St. Ann's Bay, to the age of 14 years old. There, I attended grammar, public, and high schools. I found myself afterward in the metropolis of the island, where I lived for some time, continuing my studies. At the age of 18, I started to take interest in public affairs. The politics of my country so disgusted me that I started to travel, in which course I visited several countries in South and Central America and in Europe. By the age of 21, I had further added to my education. I spent 3 years in Europe, which broadened my outlook on human affairs, particularly the affairs of the Negro race. From early youth, I discovered that there was prejudice against me because of my color, a prejudice that was extended to other members of my race. This annoyed me and helped to inspire me to create sentiment that would act favorably to the black man. It was with this kind of inspiration that I returned from my trip to Europe, to Jamaica in 1914, where I organized the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. When I organized this movement in Jamaica, it was treated with contempt and scorn by a large number of the highly colored and successful black people. In Jamaica, the colored and successful black people regard themselves as white. This is also true of the other British West Indian islands. The result is that racial movements tending to the betterment of the Negro have to undergo great difficulties. Such difficulties I encountered with the new organization. I labored in Jamaica with the hope of making the movement successful for 2 years. Seeing how difficult it was to succeed with only a limited amount of money at my disposal, I communicated with Dr. Booker T. Washington of Tuskegee. He encouraged me to go to the United States on a lecture tour and promised his help. Unfortunately, he died before I was able to reach America. However, I arrived in America in the spring of 1916, after which I started to study the sociological, economical, and political status of the Negroes of America. This took me through 38 states. It was after my return from these trips to New York that I founded in New York the New York division of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. I had great difficulty in New York in holding the organization, in that as often as I organized it, there would come into the movement scheming politicians of the Harlem district who would attempt to turn the organization into a political club. I can remember well the activities of Mr. Isaac B. Allen, Messrs. Samuel Duncan, and L. Lavelle, and others who had political designs and who thought that they could work them out through the newly formed organization I had created. To throw off the political influence of these men, I was even forced into court, for I had to somewhat beat up Duncan in detaching him from the presidency of the newly formed division of New York. After this happened, those who were following me and myself had to make desperate efforts to have the organization incorporated in New York so as to prevent Samuel Duncan overreaching us and taking away the organization from us. The organization was incorporated by Attorney Conway, who was one of the charter members. The first lady president of the New York organization was Mrs. Irene Mormon Blackston. Irene Mormon Blackston. For safety, I also was elected president of the incorporated organization. In the space of a couple of months, the organization grew from a membership of 600 to 12,000. Just at this time, we started to secure our own premises. After having rented a portion of the Lafayette Lodge rooms for a short while, immediately after the growth of the New York organization, I started the celebrated newspaper, The Negro World, in which was published my speeches made before the New York organization, and in which also was published special feature articles of mine. Through the speeches and articles circulated over the world, applications were made for the organizations of branches of the association. I was therefore in immediate requisition to visit different centers of the country to form branches. In the space of 6 months, I had formed 30 branches in America and had issued charters to several abroad. All this happened in the latter part of 1918 and the early part of 1919. By the middle of 1919, the organization had over 300 branches in America and abroad. It was at this time that we launched the idea of the Black Star Line Steamship Corporation. The Black Star Line Steamship Corporation that I organized in 1919 under charter from the state of Delaware was the great attraction that brought to the Universal Negro Improvement Association millions of supporters from Central America, South America, Africa, and the West Indies. The idea became immediately popular, that of having ships. The Negroes of the West Indies, Central America, and Africa could appreciate the scheme of steamships, could better appreciate the scheme of steamships than the Negroes of America. And so at that time, with very little persuasion, they subscribed the major portion of the money and purchased the first ship of the Black Star Line. Most of this money came from Cuba, Panama, Costa Rica, and from among the British West Indian Negroes laboring in those countries. It was not until after the first ship, the SS Yarmouth, afterwards christened the Frederick Douglass, was launched in New York, that the American Negroes got to know what it was all about and subscribed speedily their quota to help to purchase the other ships. Most of the money subscribed in America came from Negroes who lived in Boston, New York, Philly, and New Orleans. The moment the first ship of the Black Star Line was launched, the whole movement of the Universal Negro Improvement Association was referred to as the Black Star Line movement. The fact that Negroes had launched a ship in New York became a world sensation, and the news was flashed from one center of our civilization to the next. Thousands of letters of inquiry came from all parts of the world, the result of which tended to create more branches for the Universal Negro Improvement Association. The state of world enthusiasm having reached to such a height, I thought the best thing to do was to call a world convention of the Negro race. Notice was therefore served throughout the world that on the 1st of August, 1920, an international convention of the Negro peoples of the world was to be called to assemble at New York City, to which each Negro community was to send delegates. Between the launching of the first ship in October 1919 and the 1st of August 1920, several hundred branches of the Universal Negro Improvement Association were organized in the West Indies, Central America, South America, Africa, and all over the United States. The immediate success of the Black Star Line also enhanced the success of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. The world was in a state of excitement to witness the first convention of the Negro peoples of the world. So realizing the importance of the gathering, I undertook to prepare the meeting place for the convention in New York. It was then that the organization acquired the premises known as Liberty Hall, 120 to 140 West 138th Street. In addition to the smaller building that we previously occupied at the spot, around June 1920, a purchase was made of the Baptist Church of adjoining lots and a contract made to erect a temporary building to house the convention. The contractors worked day and night for 2 months to erect the building, and on the 1st of August 1920, it was ready for the Great Convention that really commenced the world history of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. August 1st, 1920 was the red letter day for the Negro peoples of the world. And on that day at 9:30 a.m., they're assembled in Liberty Hall, New York, between 120 to 140 West 138th Street, 25,000 representatives of the race from every known part of the world. They came in groups of 100, in scores, dozens, tens, and in units. We had them from Nigeria, the Gold Coast, Sierra Leone, Liberia, West Africa, from Cape Town, Johannesburg, South Africa, and from East and Central Africa, from every known island in the West Indies, including Cuba, Haiti, Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, Grenada, and all the groups of the Leeward and the Windward Islands. They came from South and Central America, from Europe, and from Asia. Contingents of thousands came from Philadelphia, Detroit, Chicago, Cincinnati in the United States, and from every other nook and corner of the Republic. It was at this hour that the famous Black Star Line band of 25 pieces under the leadership of Professor Iles and the celebrated Liberty Hall Choir of 100 voices under the leadership of Professor Arnold Ford struck up and sang this celebrated Negro hymn, "O Africa, Awaken." Now, following that comes the song, but we're going to stop right there for now and return to some more of this. We'll read more of this tomorrow. As you can see, he didn't waste any time in getting to the part about the UNIA, but he talks very little about his childhood. So apparently we're not going to get a lot about the childhood, not in that piece, but we'll keep looking and see what else we can find here in the Crosby archives. All right, with which we're sharing the space. Meanwhile, moving on. This is Doc Ock signing off here at Black Facts Headquarters Central. We're going to go ahead and let you carry on with your day. But in the meanwhile, we'll let you know to remember this evening we will be continuing on reading more about Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We finished the book, Marcus Garvey, Black Nationalist Leader. So I don't have another book that I know of that I'm going to read tonight, but we'll find something good here in the archives and we'll be sharing it with you tonight. So make sure to be here at 9 o'clock. This is Doc Ock at noon and 9 signing off. Please don't forget to give us a like if you're watching on Facebook, a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube, and last but not least, subscribe to the Tubular Black Facts channel so you can always be on point, on time, in time, every time when you hear me rhyme. Peace out without a doubt. Of course, with nothing but justice. Peace.